It's an age-old question that countless of us have likely pondered at some point in the past. Exactly how long should sex last? Perhaps now, more than ever before, our view on this question has become somewhat skewed. In the age of the internet, when access to porn is relatively open and pornographic material is readily available, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing sex should last for hours on end and that we all need to be stallions in the sack. If you're a non-scientist, you might have once asked yourself, propped against the bedhead after disappointingly quick intercourse, how long does sex normally last? A scientist, though, would phrase the same question in an almost comically obscure way. What is the mean intravaginal ejaculation latency time? I know there's a lot more to sex than putting the penis into the vagina and ejaculating, but the rest is not always easy to define. Kissing? Rubbing? Grinding? To keep things simple and specific, we'll just focus on the time to ejaculation. Measuring the average time to ejaculation is not a straightforward matter. What about just asking people how long they take, you say? Well, there are two main problems with this. One is that people are likely to be biased upwards in their time estimates, because it's socially desirable to say you go late into the night. The other problem is that people don't necessarily know how long they go for. Sex isn't something people normally do while monitoring the bedside clock, and unassisted time estimation may be difficult during a transportative session of lovemaking. What does the research say? The best study we have for estimating the average time to ejaculation in the general population involved 500 couples from around the world timing themselves having sex over a 4-week period using a stopwatch. That is as practically awkward as it sounds. Participants pressed start at penile penetration and stop at ejaculation. You may note this could affect the mood somewhat and might not exactly reflect the natural flow of things. But, science is rarely perfect, and this is the best we've got. So what did the researchers find? The most striking result is that there was a huge amount of variation. The average time for each couple, that is, averaged across all the times they had sex, ranged from 33 seconds to 44 minutes. That's an 80-fold difference. Yeah, sexy. Matthew/Flickr, CC BY. So it's clear there's no one normal amount of time to have sex. The average, median, technically, across all couples, though, was 5.4 minutes. This means that if you line up the 500 couples from shortest sex to longest sex, the middle couple goes for an average of 5.4 minutes each time they do it. There were some interesting secondary results, too. For example, condom use didn't seem to affect the time, and neither did men's being circumcised or not, which challenges some conventional wisdom regarding penile sensitivity and its relationship to staying power in the sack. It didn't much matter which country the couples came from either, unless they came from Turkey, in which case their sex tended to be significantly shorter, 3.7 minutes, than couples from other countries, Netherlands, Spain, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Another surprising finding was that the older the couple, the shorter the sex, contrary to the prevailing wisdom, probably peddled by older men. Why do we have sex for so long? As an evolutionary researcher, all this talk of how long sex lasts makes me wonder, why does it last any time at all? All sex really needs to achieve, it seems, is to put sperm into the vagina. Why all the thrusting and bumping? Instead of sliding the penis in and out many hundreds of times per sexual session, why not just put it in once, ejaculate, and then go have a lemonade and get on with the rest of the day? Before you say, because it's fun to go in and out, remember evolution doesn't care about fun per se, it generally only designs things to be enjoyable if they help our ancestors pass on their genes to future generations. For example, even though we like eating food, we don't chew each mouthful of it for 5 minutes just to make the enjoyment last longer. That would be inefficient, and so we've evolved to find it gross. Why we last so long is a pretty complicated question with no clear answer, but a clue may be in the way the penis is shaped. In 2003, researchers showed, using artificial vaginas, artificial penises, and artificial sperm, corn syrup, that the ridge around the head of the penis actually scoops out pre-existing syrup from the vagina. What this suggests is that men's repeated thrusting might function to displace other men's semen before ejaculating, ensuring their own swimmers have a better chance of reaching the egg first. Incidentally, this could explain why it becomes painful for a man to continue thrusting after ejaculating, since that would risk scooping out his own semen as well. So what to do with this information? My advice would be to try not to think about it during the throes of passion. The duration of sex. It may come as little surprise, but the average duration of sex varies greatly between both age groups and regions. So, if you're asking yourself how long sex usually lasts, there isn't an exact, definitive number we can give you. What we can tell you is that, from our global sex survey, 65% of respondents agreed that sex lasted as long as they would like, with only 14% of respondents disagreeing with the idea that sex lasted as long as they would like. With this in mind, the odds are that your sex session will last a perfectly reasonable amount of time. Before we dive further into the details, it's important to remember that the most important thing is whether you and your partner are happy with your sex life. If you find you are both satisfied after 5 minutes of penetrative sex, then you don't need to be concerned with what the average duration for sex is. Does sex include foreplay? Before we get into the nitty-gritty, it's perhaps a good idea to define what exactly we mean by sex. You would be forgiven for thinking that, when we are discussing sexual duration, we are specifically talking about how long you can last during penetrative sex. Guys, if you are worried about how long you can last before you come, and whether this is keeping your partner satisfied or not, there is no need to worry. You don't need to think about sex as the intercourse part alone. Many people out there include foreplay as part of the sex experience. Also, don't be afraid to ask your partner if they are satisfied. Communication is the key in any healthy relationship. If you're worried about how long you can last during penetrative sex, then think about how you can get the most out of the foreplay segment of your sexual encounters. If you get too excited during intercourse and you're worried that penetrative sex is going to be over fairly quickly, you can always take a break and spend some more time giving your partner some amazing oral to slow things down again. How long should sex last? Great, we're on the same page when it comes to what sex is and why duration isn't actually all that important. For those of you out there who want some insight into the actual numbers, let's dive right in. According to our global sex survey, across all ages of those questioned, the average length of sex, foreplay and intercourse combined, is 33 minutes. In terms of the most common duration for foreplay, 27% of respondents stated foreplay lasted between 6 and 10 minutes. This was mirrored in intercourse itself, where again 27% of respondents stated that penetrative sex lasted somewhere between 6 to 10 minutes. Our global sex survey results also showed that intercourse lasting more than 30 minutes is by no means the norm, with only 8% of respondents stating sex lasted that long or longer. With this in mind, there is no need to be concerned if you aren't going the distance. Up to 10 minutes of intercourse is fairly typical, and besides, all that matters is that you and your partner are having a good time. How long should sex last the first time? Now that we've established the average numbers for the duration of sex, let's talk about how long sex should last for the first time. The answer is fairly straightforward: it really doesn't matter. Whether a man or a woman, the first time you have sex should be all about being comfortable and feeling safe. If your partner is aware that it's your first time, or perhaps you are losing your virginity together, they are not going to be keeping score. So, don't get hung up on going the distance, just make sure you keep communicating, you stay safe, and you always respect each other. Losing your virginity only happens once, and it can be a very nerve-wracking experience, so try not to add extra levels of pressure.